With the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Centers, something to talk about. Please consider adding our senior center to your One Call for All giving this year. Today, I want to welcome Arms Around Bainbridge board member Jackie Fabbri and Heather Patrick to talk about this amazing nonprofit, Arms Around Bainbridge, which provides financial and emotional support to island residents facing financial crisis as a result of illness. Arms Around Bainbridge is also a One Call for All entity that we encourage you to consider in your end of the year giving also. Welcome, Jackie and Heather.
Thank you so much for having us and telling us about this opportunity. This is terrific.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited not only to share our story, but it's great to have an opportunity to learn more about what the Senior Center is doing.
Right. I'm going to go over and try to present right now.
I was just saying to the group before we got started that I love Bainbridge. I find Bainbridge to just be a remarkably connected and unique, supportive community. And when I moved here in 2011, my friend Jackie Fabbri, who's also on this call, invited me to join the board, and it's just been a marvelous experience. So just to give you kind of an overview of what we do provide financial and emotional support to island residents who are facing a crisis due to a serious illness. This can be cancer. This could be any kind of, ongoing issue that has created a situation where people can't work. And what often happens, with medical care today is that treatment can go on, but if you can't work, then there is so much that falls through the cracks. And even if you have insurance, which most of our recipients do, the insurance only covers medical expenses. It does not cover basic needs. So that is the gap that Arms Around Bainbridge is designed to fill. And I'm going to sorry.
I'm going to talk a little bit, go on back to the first slide. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the history and how it got started. Orlando Boleda, who is still on our board, a founding member, Pete Saludos and Paul Weber, started Arms Around Bainbridge because of a friend of theirs, Olivia Carey. And Olivia was a much beloved trainer at Island Fitness, incredibly healthy. And you might also know her. She used to walk around Winslow with her dog, Neo, the Rottweiler, all the time. And when Olivia got ill, the guys learned that she had insurance, but she was having trouble with her rent and her food expenses. And they put their heads together and said, how can we help Olivia? And the Swim Around the Island event was born. So that was in 2007. The first swim was 2008. Arms Around Bainbridge was organized in 2008. We have always been an all-volunteer board. We all have full-time jobs, except for one guy who retired. And we meet one Thursday a month. We met last night, as a matter of fact. And over 80% of our donations go directly to the recipients. The other money that, the other 20% or so are event-related expenses. So I'll let Heather tell you a little bit more about our board.
So this is an image of the Arms Around Bainbridge board. As you can see, we usually have a great time when we're all together, whether it's in person or on Zoom. I'm dead center in the middle, and Jackie is right above me. We are the only non-swimming members of the board of directors. Colleen Chupik, who's up in the upper left corner, is a wonderful addition to our board. She has a communications marketing company, so helps us with that. Heather Berger in the right upper corner, you may have already met through her work with Friends of the Farm. She's the executive director for that organization. Sejan McFarland is a longtime island resident. She's a lawyer and makes sure that we're always in sync with our bylaws and our operations. And she's also involved with the Bainbridge Island Land Trust. And over here on the left in the middle is Ken Goodman. He's the lawyer who retired, so we now give him a lot more work to do for Arms Around Bainbridge. He's also our primary liaison with applicants for Arms Around Bainbridge. So, so Ken will always have sort of the initial point of contact, and then we work people through our process, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And Orlando Boleda, who is down here in the lower level, he's our treasurer, and just a great guy. I know many of you know him and his wife, Barbara, and he does a fantastic job as treasurer. And so that's us. As Jackie said, we are all volunteer, and it's a wonderful way for us to connect into the island and help make the island special. So just to give you a little bit of a history of Arms Around Bainbridge and the work that we've done, since 2008, we've assisted 51 families. We currently have 8 recipient families, and happily, we have 35 graduates. These are people and families that we have helped during sort of really the dark times when they were undergoing treatment and finances were hard and the emotions of the illness were hard, but they then recovered and were able to move beyond Arms Around Bainbridge, and we always love it when that happens. Sadly, we also have people who have passed while they've been recipients, and that's always heartbreaking for us. We just lost a recipient who had been with us for, oh gosh, I want to say 3 or 4 years, who we all just loved. And so that's always heartbreaking for us, but it also reinvigorates the desire to continue this work. So the way that, whoops, I'm sorry, wrong button. So the way that recipients come to us is they're often referred to us by a friend or by Helpline House or the Island Volunteer Caregivers Group, or other social agencies, or they may know of our work and reach out to us directly. We do have to have a direct contact with the person who is seeking support. And then Jackie is going to talk a little bit more about eligibility and the process that we go through.
Right. So for who's eligible. So as we already talked about, our mission, it is to provide financial and emotional support to community members who are in crisis due to serious illness. So what is a serious illness? We have worked through this and refined this over the years. So we define a serious illness as a condition that is expected to continue for at least 3 months from the date that we review them due to an accident or an illness, or it prevents the individual from meeting his or her daily basic financial needs at the time. So it's restricted to Bainbridge Island residents. And Heather's going to tell you about the 2 different kinds, the long-term and the short-term.
So we, like many organizations, we have evolved over time. And right now we offer 2 different types of assistance. Our primary focus is on long-term assistance. And in these cases, we make an 18-month commitment to a recipient to help them. Basically, we provide a bridge to help them move from where they are in treatment to make sure that they can focus on their treatment and on getting better. And so we make an 18-month commitment to cover their basic needs. Each plan is customized to the needs of our recipients. We review that plan every 6 months to make sure that the need we're providing is the most critical need that needs to be supported. And then when we get close to the end of 18 months, those recipients are able to reapply for another 18-month commitment. We do give preference to new recipients so that we can spread the help. But in most cases, and in fact, in my 6 years on the board, we've never not renewed an 18-month commitment if it's been needed. But we go through that process, really to make sure that we're staying connected to our recipients, and we really want to make sure that we're providing what they need. We have found that many of our long-term recipients won't ask for something specific. So they always want to, sort of have other people benefit. But fortunately, through the fundraising that we've done, which we'll talk about in a bit, we've always been able to keep our recipients covered for as long as the need has existed. We also use community partners to support those efforts, which we'll talk about also in a few minutes. On the other side of this slide, you'll see short-term assistance. And this is something that we added a few years ago, because oftentimes what we would find is that recipients were able to meet their basic needs, but if there was a surprise expense or a new expense, they had no leeway. There was no extra money. So if their car breaks down, excuse me, if they have, if something else, mechanical breaks, or if all of a sudden, as part of their treatment, they need a special piece of medical equipment that's not covered by insurance, then we will cover those expenses on a short-term grant process. They can also reapply for short-term assistance if needed. And sometimes, people will come to us thinking that they really just need a little bit of help. And through the interview process that we go through, we really determine that their basic needs are not being met, in which case we move them over into a long-term assistance program. So just to clarify, while we do make an 18-month commitment on the long-term assistance, sometimes people don't need the full 18 months. And if that's the case, then, we graduate them as soon as they don't need us anymore. But the beauty of the 18-month commitment, we have found, is that it allows our recipients to take a breath. It allows them to relax, to know that there will be food on the table, that they won't lose their housing, that they'll be able to travel to their doctor's appointments. And so that's why we generally will look at an 18-month commitment. So Jackie's going to tell you a little bit more about the process that we use to determine if our applicants qualify as recipients.
So this, again, is a process that we have developed and refined over the years. So first, we're contacted by the individual or the family, and our rule is that we have to have direct contact with the recipient or their family. It's essential for us to hear from them. We try to make the criteria not complicated at all. It makes it much easier for us to make decisions on who we can and, sadly, who we can't help. Every recipient has a board member who is assigned to them as a one-to-one person if they're accepted as a recipient. And this gives us the ability to be emotionally involved with them and know what's going on in their life. If you go to the next slide. So our initial interview with a potential recipient is almost always conducted in their home. It gives us a chance to evaluate their needs from every angle. So we get a list of their current budget, their expenses, their anticipated expenses, and we take the vetting really seriously because we're going to develop a report that we have to give to the board. These are really raw, tough conversations with people because so many times they're in a bad place. They're struggling mightily with their illness. I mean, there have been times when we have walked into someone's home and they've got a stack of bills and letters that they don't want to open. that's something we'll help them with. We've done that many times where we've kind of gone through their expenses. After that's done, Ken Goodman is typically the one that writes a report and sends it to the board. We all review it together, and the first thing we look at is what impact can we have for this person without spending any money. We've got terrific community partners, in-kind partners who support us in so many different ways, from psychological counseling, law counseling, body work, dental work. We've been able to call collection agencies and argue down debt. We call the hospitals to get clarification on bills. So we look at all those things first, and then we see what we can do for the recipient, what they're asking, and then we put our budget to it and see what we can do. And we decide as a board if we can responsibly allocate money to the person. Because we meet with them so frequently, we are aware of their needs. We are aware of emotionally what they need. And I think that's really what makes us just completely unique, is that we are involved. Each one of us has one or two people that we're in contact with all the time. And they're our friends, really. They become our friends. So we know their family, we know their kids, and it makes it a little more personal. And that's exactly as it is designed to be. Here's an example, next slide, Heather, of a typical budget for a family of four. This is on an income of $2,400. We would walk in and we'd get all these bills and we put them in, this would go in our report, and we would see that this particular family is short by about over $1,400. You notice some of the expenses in there, the Medicaid spend down, it's not unusual. The debt servicing, I mean, so many of these people come to us after they have been in financial crisis for so long that we've got a lot of backup work to do with them. So this is just a pretty typical look at what a budget looks like. And Heather will explain to you what the different things that we cover.
And just to follow up on this a little bit, this is a monthly budget. So you can see where the shortfall would happen between the $3,800 in expenses and the $2,400 in income. And the other thing that I wanted to add is that we don't give cash directly to the recipients to manage their bills. We always will pay bills directly to the receiving organization, or we will provide gift cards for Safeway, for food. We pay utilities directly. So there's really always a direct connection between Arms Around Bainbridge and how that support is being provided. So just some examples of things that we cover. We start by looking at the basic needs. So we want to make sure that our recipient families have enough food on the table, that they can stay in their housing situation. There's a lot of recipients for whom we pay rent. We cover medication that's not covered by insurance, and we cover insurance premiums when that is necessary. We'll purchase ferry passes to make it easier for people to afford to go off island for their medical care, which is often required. And then we will pay for, kind of unique things that may be needed. Eyeglasses, hearing aids, wheelchair batteries. We actually did buy a wheelchair battery for one of our recipients. We've bought a special bed for one of our recipients who lives in chronic pain because of her conditions. We'll cover home and auto repairs. And to Jackie's note about, we will try to not spend money if we don't have to, we will often do home repairs ourselves, or we will elicit the help of other island organizations. One of our favorites is the Bainbridge Island Fire Department. We went to a recipient's house a couple of years ago. Her front porch was disintegrating. It was not safe. And so with the Bainbridge Island Fire Department, we rebuilt the porch. We chopped a bunch of firewood. This picture that you can see on this slide is a garden that we helped build. And so, you know, we really want to connect with our recipients in a very real, very present way. And so that's one of the ways that we do that. A lot of our recipients have children. And so we will spend some money to help send kids to camp or to help with their educational needs. Every Christmas, every December, we provide an extra gift card that can be used to help provide a holiday for the family. And then the item down here, second from the bottom, the Good Eats program. This is a really cool program. We applied for a grant from the Bainbridge Community Foundation, and we're now in our third year. And what the Good Eats program does is it enables us to hire an island chef, a personal chef. Her name is Ruth Frobe. She has a personal chef business. And once a month, she goes to Barn, which gives us a discount, a nonprofit discount to use their commercial kitchen. And Ruth cooks meals for our participating recipients. And so every month, our recipients receive a menu of choices. They can choose 3. All of the options can be adjusted to their specific dietary requirements, because often when you're in treatment, you can't eat certain foods. So Ruth manages all of that. And then we have volunteers who deliver the meals to our recipients, which is great because it's another touch point. It's another touch point from the community. And it's another way for us to just check in with the recipients and see how they're doing. I can tell, I run that program from as a board member. And I can tell you that every month when I see the menu options, I wish I was a recipient. So Jackie's going to talk about how we raise funds to cover these things, starting with our swim.
Great. So we have 2 events, plus we have some other ways like One Call for All and grants. But the 2 events are our 2 main things. And the annual Swim Around the Island Relay is our signature event. It started in 2008 because of Olivia, held early in August, and it's probably the thing that we're most known around the island for. This event starts about 5 a.m. And a handful of very brave souls jump into the water at Blakely Harbor, and then throughout in the dark. And then throughout the day, about 30 swimmers jump in at several different starting points. And then the final group of swimmers make their way back to Blakely Harbor, usually about 6 p.m. So for the past few years, we've also had the support of the Bainbridge Island Rowers, who have decided to hold a rowing event on the same day and have generously supported our fundraising efforts. So this is our big event. We have never missed it, even through COVID. This year, we were able to have it because we changed it and had many more in and out points, and it was an incredible success this year. So our other event is our bingo night, and this started as of 2014. It was added. It's held at Grace Church, and it's an incredibly fun night of bingo, games, and a paddle call. Many people have told me that this is the most joyful fundraising event that they have ever attended. And we try to keep it light and fun, and it is a blast. I mean, people come in costumes. They started coming in costumes. It's just a really fun night. Because of COVID, we won't be able to have the event this coming January, but we hope to bring it back in 2022. One of the interesting things about this event is for all but 1 year, Heather Berger on our board and Friends of the Farm executive director planned and prepared the dinner for the 200 attendees that came. She did it with an army of volunteers. I guess they must have all been good with knives, but they worked over a couple of days and nights at the barn and created the meals. And Heather loves to do this type of thing, but besides that, it cuts our food and catering costs down by 85% when she does it. And that money goes straight to our recipients. So those are our two main events. Here's a look at the next slide of kind of our income and disbursements. The orange is income, the green is disbursements. And to me, this graph just illustrates that no matter how we do in fundraising, there's always a need that we will have to help people. Since 2008, we've had income of $1.2 million, and we've dispersed over $955,000. Currently, we disperse about $10,000 a month. Besides the two events I told you about, we get financial and community support from many others. And Heather will tell you about that.
So this is an example of the community partnerships that we have. And so, as was mentioned at the beginning, we participate in One Call for All. We're very excited and fingers are crossed for this year to see, how that might bolster our efforts in the coming year. Bainbridge Island Rowing Club, as Jackie mentioned, always supports our swim by hosting a rowing event in Eagle Harbor, which is great fun to watch. And they have raised over the last, several years, several $1,000s for our recipients. Every year, Windermere, we apply for a community grant, which they have graciously provided for the last 4 years. Bainbridge Community Foundation supports our Good Eats program. Barnes supports our Good Eats program. Island Fitness has been a long time supporter, really since the beginning, because that was where Olivia worked when we had our first swim and we really launched the organization. They've been a huge supporter, and IVC and Helpline House will not only send us potential recipients, but then we will also coordinate with those organizations to make sure that, together we're covering a wider breadth of needs for the recipients. And, while sadly we do lose some of our recipients, that is always helped by the fact that the Cook Family Funeral Home works with us to reduce the costs for the services that need to happen at end of life. They've been incredibly generous. I don't know if you all know, but the company was actually bought by a new company, or the business was bought by a new company a couple of years ago, and they have just stepped right up and have continued our partnership and have been really wonderful to work with. So that really kind of brings us to the end of the presentation, but we're happy to answer questions and tell you more about us.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather and Jackie. I didn't know, I knew about helping financially the recipients, but I didn't realize the support, the emotional support. And, I think it should be 3 A's and a B, angels of arms. I really do, because again, when you lose one of your recipients, you lose a friend. And boy, that just got me right here. So, so I know that that's something that you are willing to do. And that is just, I can't tell you how special that is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I know a few people that were recipients of Arms Around, and that you are just an amazing nonprofit here on Bainbridge Island, and I think I encourage everybody to support you through One Call for All, or go to that crazy bingo.
Yeah, that's become a blockbuster party. I don't know how it happened, but I think people were. It's a time of year, people are stuck inside, and they want to get out. So it's fitting 200 people in Grace Church is not an easy thing. And
no,
so
it's, you have to carpool.
Yeah.
but it's just fabulous. I think you covered everything so beautifully, Jackie and Heather, and we just want to thank you so much for joining us today. And again, think about Arms Around Bainbridge when you're doing your end of the year giving, and also the Bainbridge Island Senior Center through your One Call for All red envelope.
Did we mention One Call for All? Oh, we did. Okay.
Oh,
we all said it.